Hey, hello, everybody. Welcome to season 14 of the 15-ish minute coffee chat, a conversation providing tips for every entrepreneur and business owner.
Now, true leadership isn't about titles. It's about influence, clarity, and accountability. But in a world filled with constant noise, how do the best leaders rise above the chaos to create real impact? This week, we're joined by Andrea Singsaas, an international speaker with and an executive coach who helps high level leaders navigate growth and change with a no nonsense approach. Now, in this conversation, Andrea is going to share why clarity beats hustle, how to build accountability within your team, and why coaching is far from a soft skill, but a powerful tool for better decisions and stronger teams. If you're ready to cut through the noise and lead with purpose, this episode is for you. Hi, Selena. How are you today?
Good morning, my biz bestie.
Good
I
morning.
think it's a Thursday as we're recording, and it's been a week.
It has been a week.
Right? Anyway, I'm super excited about Andrea coming on again. I just kind of I really love uh there's this energy about her that I need when
Mhm.
I'm kind of I don't know. She's like the coach that is like right behind me going, go up there, do it. Right. And she had done a post earlier that talked about like truth tellers and cheerleaders. And I 100% fell in love with this post because it's so true. And I think that that's one of my favorite things about Andrea is like she's a truth teller. And I
Yeah.
think you need that in business because that helps you move forward. Right. And so, I'm excited for today's conversation. Anytime you have a leadership conversation, I'm like, I want to know.
I know. And you know what you just shared actually leads us directly into the call to action, which is do you hold yourself accountable for your leadership, right? And this is that
Mm,
truth telling that you were talking about. Like,
yeah,
are you holding yourself accountable? Are you looking at what you're doing and how you're doing it and saying, I'm effective, I'm not effective?
yeah.
Why or why not, right? Or what's
Hmm.
going on really behind how my leadership style is working? So, what a good
Yep.
question. So if you're
Yeah.
watching right now, whether live or catching the replay, drop us a comment, give us a thumbs up or a
Yeah.
thumbs down. Do you think you hold yourself accountable? I mean, and the answer might be sometimes, right? And the
Yeah.
answer might be sometimes I turn the blind eye and pretend pretend
Yeah.
I'm being accountable because I don't want to have to face reality, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, the sad truth to that though, son, is it just hurts ourselves in the end. Right. And so I've been managed and led by many, many people in my careers. And I've gotten to kind of really absorb a lot of their styles and kind of just what they do. And so you see that when one doesn't face the reality though sometimes and they're leading a group, it's so detrimental to the team and to the business. But I totally get it because sometimes just as a leader, you're overwhelmed, you
Yeah.
know and you don't realize that until you get into the leadership, right? So it's very easy to pinpoint and point the finger at somebody and say you don't do this. But anyway, the conversation is going to be with Andrea because I just can't wait for the questions we're going to ask her and just the conversation. So
I know.
shall what wait, did
Yeah.
you want to respond to
No, no,
that?
no. I
Because
want to say,
okay.
like we said, the conversation is going to be awesome. But let's read her
Yeah.
bio and get her up here so we can start
Yes.
it because,
Yes.
she's got the words of wisdom.
Yeah.
We're just
We're just
talking
listening.
around it.
We're just listening.
That's
So, okay, I'm going to tell you a little about Andrea. She is an acclaimed international speaker and executive coach renowned for guiding leaders through transformative growth and change. Andrea supports clients and audiences by distilling complex topics into actionable insights. She's a former healthcare executive with a rich background in international consulting, project management, and communications. This enables her to bring diverse insights and real world examples to her clients and speaking engagements. Known for her straightforward approach to leadership development, she is an acclaimed executive coach. Her clients work for well known organizations including Amazon, Target, MIT, Accenture, Home Depot, Splunk, and the Department of Defense. I mean, no biggies, just some big names,
just a
you
few
know.
people that she's tallied
Yeah.
around with.
Right, right, right. I mean, without further ado, Anna, let's bring her up and let's start this
Yeah,
conversation.
let's do it. Here she comes.
Yeah.
Hi, Andrea.
Hello.
Oh, thank you for saying yes again and wanting to come and share just your knowledge, because I know, you're a busy lady.
This is one of my favorite things to do, is hang out with you guys. So,
Oh my gosh.
no.
Yeah, big hugs. Okay, before we get started, because I'm super excited and I know Anna is, we're going to take our coffee cup selfie so that we can just get past this with our invisible photographer. But Anna's gonna put her thing up. Oh wait, hold on, and we're gonna.
I'm gonna move me down.
Okay.
I moved me down.
Okay, on 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Thank you, invisible photographer.
Yeah, you're wonderful. Okay, so Andrea, we're gonna put you in our favorite power pose seat, and we're gonna just start this conversation. Hold on, that's not it. This is it. Okay. Anna, let's wait, hold on. Before we start, I want to tell everybody, so Andrea and I had we met virtually, and we were talking. It was supposed to be about her, and then she flipped it and asked about me, and I don't know how to do that well. So we were talking about a name that I like to call myself. And so if you know me and you know one of my nicknames, it's Techie Bestie. And that came from her. And she's the reason why. She's like, why don't you, this is it. And I was like, oh my gosh, we talked about and it was just, I've never dropped it. I enjoy it. And it is exactly kind of who I am and how I am. And so what's funny is there's people that will say, hey, you're the Techie Bestie. You know what I mean? And so I just want to tell people, one little meeting that wasn't even about me, and she makes an impact. So that's all I want to say. Okay. Let's carry on, guys.
It is fun to still stick around. That has been really fun to see your brand develop and it kind of be part of your brand, which is
yes, you're amazing. Okay, thank you. Anyway, okay, Anna, what's the first question we want to ask?
Okay, Andrea, we want to ask you this question. So in your intake form, you were talking about leadership not being about a title, and instead that it was about influence. So can you just give everybody a rundown? What does that truly mean, and what does it look like in action?
Absolutely. Well, I truly believe that anybody has the ability to lead innately somewhere within them. If they want to, they can. So part of that is, it's not about a title. You don't have to have any special title. You don't have to own a business. You don't have to be in a C-suite. Anybody can lead somebody, and you have the skills that you need. You might need to have them sharpened. You might need to refine them, but you do have everything that you need to lead others. But it does look different depending on the situation you're in. There are some expectations around somebody that has, a CEO or COO type of a title, as opposed to somebody that is a solopreneur, as opposed to somebody who is leading their family well. Maybe this is the season that they are, working inside the home and taking care of the, everything there. You're leading. It's just a matter of how you see yourself in that role and what those specific tasks are assigned with it. And what it is, it's really about, are you performing and functioning in a way that others want to follow you? So that's what influence is. You don't have to have a certain title. You don't have to have anything, but working in alignment with, that it, when I talk about it in my presentation, so I talk about the difference between influence and presence. So we talk about executive presence, and kind of that's who you are, how you look, right? And those sorts of things. And then how you present yourself and information. But then influence is more of what you do, what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, how you're doing things in a way that impacts others and or both holds yourself or others to a certain standard that makes it easier or makes it more preferable for people to follow you.
Yeah. So it's funny because what you're talking about takes me right back to the call to action that we asked about, which is, are you holding yourself accountable for that influence and that leadership role that you have? Because sometimes you're put in a leadership role, whether you want it or not.
Yes.
Right. And you are just there. And when you're there and you do have that influence, there's a responsibility that comes with that. And you have to be accountable for what you do in that position for those people who are looking to you for guidance and mentorship and coaching and all the things that kind of have to go along with leadership.
Yes, absolutely. And sometimes maybe one of the more difficult things to coach through or to help people with, or maybe they are taking on a new position or they're part of a new team and they don't have any formal leadership function. They're leading, they have to lead, like project managers are a great experience, like a great example. That's something, I think that was the last thing I talked about when I was on the show, is project management. But if you're in a project manager role, very rarely do you have direct reports. You have to lead and get things done by influence, not by title or executive order, right? It's simply, this is what we need to do. And you have to communicate and hold yourself in such a way and treat others in a way that they will follow you without any real reason to. It's a tricky thing.
Oh, yeah. You know, you brought me back to like when I was in my 20s and got my first manager position, right? I was a leader, and it was difficult because all of a sudden I had to lead my peers that I was normally with, right? Like we worked shifts together, and now I had to tell them what to do, not tell them what, but you know what I mean? I had to guide them, I had to lead them. And it was a difficult transition, only just because these are your friends and you're trying to figure out that balance. And I remember a friend saying to me, "Oh, so you're like a boss. Is that what's happening?" And we had that conversation. Great. One of my best friends still till today. But it was this realization that yeah, I'm in a leading position. And I don't know, her saying that made me realize, like, yes, I take responsibility for this position that they've given me. But I just, what I mean to say by bringing that up is I remember, like you said, if it's the very first time someone is leading, right, there are going to be little bumps in the road, and give yourself a little grace, figure it out, and you're going to be okay. So,
well, hopefully once you get to that point, you've had some examples of people that you really like the leadership style of. And then there's almost always going to be examples of people that you don't like the leadership style of, right? So it's nice that when you get to that point, you can frequently have some at least background of working with leaders. You're, as a follower, working with leaders and understanding kind of the, well, I want to emulate this, I don't want to emulate that, right? It's like when we talk about our parents. I want to be like my mom in this way, but I'm never going to do that thing that she always did to me over here, right? Like that kind of influence from people prior to us. I want to throw this second question up because I think that it ties in well with what we're talking about. You also talked about not just leadership, but clarity and hustle. Okay. I would love it if you kind of define what you mean by these two terms, and then why do you believe clarity beats hustle?
Ooh, I'm a big fan of efficiency. Okay. So if you are just hustling and moving and moving and moving just for the sake of, you know, your inbox is never going to end. Like it's just like a never ending pile of things. If you're a small business owner, there's a task list that never ends. If you are at home, if you're a parent or you're a caregiver of any sort, the tasks never end. Like it doesn't matter if you are in a working environment or a home environment, wherever you're leading, there's always going to be more. There's always going to be more. It just doesn't stop. So what I mean by that with regard to clarity beats hustle is if you don't have a sense of like where you want to go, what are your priorities? What is most important to you? Either personally or professionally, doesn't matter, depends probably on the leadership role we're talking about, but maybe both actually, to be quite honest. But what are your priorities and why are those important to you? You have to really understand your why, get clear around it and what those goals are, where you want to go, so that you're making traction and you're making progress to those things that are the most important to you. And because you just literally can't do it all. Otherwise, you spend all of your time hustling. It's like scooping snow in the middle of a snowstorm. Like, yes, you're doing something. It feels good to be doing it. It's going to need to be done. But is that the highest and best use of your time right now? Because there's only one of you and you only get one chance, one day, 1 hour at a time. What can you do with that that's going to best serve you, your family, your business, your organization, so that you don't end up being burnt out? Because if you're always the one out there hustling, you probably won't get the traction you want or the results that you want. as quickly. You will probably still get there. Eventually, your driveway will get scooped. Eventually, the snow ends. However, it will probably be a lot more time that you're spending out there scooping than if you were to just go out at the end, perhaps. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
So it absolutely makes sense. And when you were talking, what came to my mind is this is really good conversation for those entrepreneurs that are like solopreneurs that maybe have a contractor or two that they work with, but really don't have a team behind them. And thinking through the fact that you are still a leader, right? You are still leading yourself. You are still leading your business priority, your business itself. And to remind yourself that if all you're doing is hustling, but you're not focused on the priorities, you are going to burn out. It's again, taking that accountability for, am I doing what needs to be done right now in the priority order that it should be done? I am a big fan of efficiency also. And I find myself doing the hustle and not the clarity version of that more often than I would probably like, right? And part of that is because I feel like, and drop a little like heart to me if you feel this way too and you're listening right now, but sometimes I feel like if I'm not busy, I'm not working hard enough.
Yes. I think that is so common, and like so common. And I feel that too as a solopreneur, right? I think we all do, or even just as humans, right? I think a lot of us are taught that productivity, being active, is good, and inactivity is inherently the opposite. But to get clear on your goals, to really step back and get that 10,000 foot view of what you want and where you're going, to see the forest for the trees, a lot of times you have to slow down and be purposeful and intentional at looking at those things. That's honestly, if you really want to know the reason that coaching works, it's not because you don't have the answers. You have the answers and you know what you need to do and you know innately what's important to you. I'm just asking the questions and making you slow down enough that it all clicks into place.
Yeah.
I want to jump in. So we had a previous guest on, April Garcia, and I was part of her group coaching group. Anyway, and that came up in one of the sessions. We talked about that downtime, and we feel like we're not doing something. And she had posed this question. She's like, then you can celebrate. Go do something for yourself that you got to a moment where you got that little moment of, don't feel like you've done something wrong. But it was interesting because like all the different business people, it's like an older gentleman, right? And I was like, it is everybody that feels that way.
Right.
And
it is not one kind
right.
Yep. Absolutely. And it's everybody.
Yes. And it's so hard to like, it's hard. I love what you're saying too. It's just, it's hard to say like, oh, I deserve that, that moment for myself to bake a cake or
even to be able to
walk.
say, I've done enough today, right?
Yes. Oh,
like,
gosh,
I think,
yeah.
Because I could continue working until midnight every night and still have things to do and do that every day during every day of the week. But I think part of that leadership accountability that you've been talking about, Andrea, is recognizing you have to say, I've done enough today and I need time to recharge and refocus my priorities on other things that surround me. Because I think being a good leader means having kind of that balance a little bit in your life, where it's not all, because your employees, if you have employees or contract workers, even, I guarantee you, they are not hustling right alongside you 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. They know what their contract entails, X, Y, Z, and that's what they're working toward, right?
Yeah. That's where that clarity piece comes in, right, Andrea? Like
it does. And this even came up in a coaching session yesterday, which this might be a hot tip, something that somebody could immediately do today without any coaching or anything, is make your list reasonable of what you want to get done. This example was somebody who had a chunk, kind of like a sabbatical, a period of time off, and they had some house projects and things that they wanted to complete in that time. I said, well, we'll make the list. Make the list exactly what you want to get done and don't add a single more thing to it. Once you get that list done, you're done. And that you can do every day. You can do it across a month. You can do it across a year. But the caveat was, if you're going to add to it, you need to have some sort of a meeting. If you're a solopreneur, maybe just with yourself. But if this is like at home, maybe you're sitting down across the table with your partner and saying, okay, we got all of these things done. That felt good. Do we need a break? We need to celebrate this. I want to add these 3 more things, because otherwise, if you don't take that little piece of time in there, you really will just keep going and going and going. But the trick is, be reasonable, put a few things on the list, especially if you're just doing it for a day. And once that list is done, stop and recognize.
Why do we have such a hard time celebrating that, or taking that minute to celebrate? Why do we do that? Because just what you're talking about, I mean, I recognize myself very strongly in all of this, right? And because I am a doer and I am an executor, and I like to have my checklist and I keep adding to it throughout the day, it's never ending. I do at some point say, okay, I'll finish this stuff up tomorrow, and then I keep adding to it the next day, right?
Yep.
But that celebration time almost feels like an I don't need it almost, but I do, right? What you're saying, I'm thinking, no, and the people around me need it,
right?
To recognize the work
regularly in coaching sessions is, I will say, stop. You need to acknowledge what you just said or did, or whatever you do. You need to stop and acknowledge yourself for that growth or that change that you made, because it is so important, and we aren't trained to do that. It does take time, and it's kind of a mindset shift. And I don't know why we don't do it. We were often, I think most of us, celebrated and acknowledged, in our youth. So I don't know why it's different now.
Maybe because what we were celebrated for, at least in my case, right? Like thinking back, it was, I got things done, and that was rewarded. That was where the cheerleading happened, and it could be different for other people, but it's part of that self-assessment and self-awareness of, why do I do things the way I do? Why do I lead the way I do? Yep. Why is this important? Yep. So good.
I got
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. No, we got this.
Yeah.
So, hey, this is the part about entrepreneurship that I love, right? Is we also have life happening still, and so what that means is you have things happening, right?
Yeah.
And if you are still at home, you're a mom, on top of all the things that you do, this is what we love. So, hey, she's back. It was so fast. Okay, look, guys, she had put something in the oven. We talked about this before we came on to the recording, and we just said, as long as we get some, and then we were invited to her home. So, okay. Anyway, does the cake look good? I need to know, because I need some clarity.
Well, I could smell it. That's how I knew it was done, even before the timer went off. And this is something, I have been perfecting this cake for a lot of years. This is top-notch chocolate cake. So happy Valentine's Day.
You know what? Today on our recording is the 13th. Happy Galentine's. I want to celebrate these 2 wonderful ladies that are right here, that really truly have had some little impact in my life, professionally and personally.
I'm thinking little hearts go right
I know. It's just little hearts to you guys.
Coming your way.
Yeah. So I think I want, you know what, Andrea, wouldn't it be so freaking great if we had a timer on all the things, just to kind of like make sure, hey, okay, now it's done. You're good. And then if you could just smell that your work is done, like, okay, right? Like, wouldn't that be so freaking great? I would just, oh man, life would be easy. But I mean, that's why being an entrepreneur is not easy, right? It's not for the faint-hearted, for sure.
Yeah. So we do have one last question for Andrea, and it really ties in well with what we're doing, which is, just give us some tips, Andrea, on how leaders can make that mindset shift and start to focus, prioritize, and focus over just being busy. Like, what can we do to start that process internally and make that change if we tend to be the busy bunny, go get it done all the time, all days?
No, I think that's a really great question. So what can you do to be more focused and kind of retrain your brain? Well, first of all, you need to take a step back and take a minute and find out what you want to do first. If you don't know what you want to do, you're aiming at nothing and you're going to hit it. So we got to figure out exactly what that goal is. And maybe it's just goals for today. Maybe it's goals for the week. Maybe it's goals that are annual. Or maybe we're talking about long-term professional goals. If I do this today, it will get me one step closer to this in 5 years. Whatever it is, however your brain thinks, we need to think about that. And we need to take the time to do it. Not very many people really take the time to do it and are self-aware enough to truly know why they want it. A lot of people that I work with, one of the greatest things that they get out of coaching, or one of the things that they reflect to me, this isn't me saying it, but that greater self-awareness, like being able to say, okay, this is what I truly want. I'm not doing this for somebody else. I'm not doing this for an economic or financial reward. I'm doing this because this authentically aligns with who I am, my gifts, my talents, and why I'm here. So you can't do that without taking time. And do you have to like book a 5-day retreat and like have like silence with
Yes,
mom?
you do. Yes, you do, Andrea.
Okay, yes, you do. I don't know. I am not in a season of life that I get to do that. So sometimes you find that silence or that quiet in the car pickup line before the kids get in the car. Sometimes that quiet comes after the whole house goes to bed, or sometimes it's in the morning before the sun comes up. Whenever you can find quiet, it doesn't need to be a lot, but I would encourage people to really think about it and think about what's going to be most important to them. Obviously, I could throw in a pitch here. If you're not sure and you don't feel like you're getting any traction, get a coach. There are tons of coaches out there. There's somebody for everybody. So that is another thing. And then also, I think we're going to talk about in a little bit, I have a worksheet that might be helpful too. If somebody wants something more tactile, if they're kind of more of a writer, a journaler, that might be helpful as well.
Yeah, I was joking. Of course, you don't have to have that 5-day retreat. Well, it would be fabulous. But I will say, I loved what you just came back with, which is, hey, you know, there's going to be a season where a 5-day retreat is exactly what you can do. And then there's going to be a season where, like you said, it's going to be the 15 minutes waiting in the pickup line where you can like sit and mull over decisions you have to make, or priorities that need to be, you know, reanalyzed, or whatever the situation might be. And to recognize as part of where you're at, both in your business and in your personal life, which of those is going to be the most appropriate. Because I guarantee you, if you try and take a 5-day retreat when you need to be in the pickup line, you're just going to be stressed. It's not going to be productive. Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
And
it almost like goes back to you saying like that's a hustle sometimes, right? To do the 5-day retreat versus the clarity of just a 15-minute pickup line.
Exactly. Yeah. And maybe one of the biggest things that is helpful for people is to just write it down. Just write it down somewhere on the back of a note card. Try not to lose it. In my life, a lot of paper gets swept into crafts and things, but try to write it down somewhere so that you can reflect back on it and acknowledge how far you've come towards those goals later on.
You know, I just love you, Andrea. Because honestly, while you were talking, I thought in my head, that whiteboard I haven't put up yet, I need to put it up, because I like to see things written. And I have a notebook and I write it in my notebook. But guess then what? The notebook closes and it's not front and center for me. And I know Selena likes things electronically, right? So then I put it electronically, but guess what? It's not front and center. And I know for me what works best is I can look up and I see my priority list. And when I don't see it, right, I have a hard time remembering what's on it. And that's not everyone, but I know that's me. And so part of that for me, I just want to say thank you today, because today I'm saying to myself, if I do this, I will work smarter. I will prioritize better. I will be a better leader for myself, my family, my business, right? And so I just appreciate even that one little thing that I'm taking from today that I'm going to change about how I'm doing things now. That's going to improve my leadership abilities.
And I think that's a really good reminder too, is we need to have those check-ins with ourselves, especially as small business owners or solopreneurs, entrepreneurs. There's not a lot of other accountability. We were talking about that earlier. So we need to check in and be accountable with ourselves and ask, is what we're doing right now getting us closer to what's most important to us, whatever that is. And so have that check-in moment and maybe put it on a Post-it, stick it next to your desk, whatever. But is what I'm doing making the most sense for me right now? Some things have to get done, but other things you don't have to do.
And if you're willing, drop it and tag us on it. We would love to know the answer to that question and what you're doing, right? Do you need help on it? Is there something we can help brainstorm, or because we love that. We love that part of it.
I will tell you real fast before we go on to the toolkit. My daughter and I started about 3-4 weeks ago. Every Sunday, we write our little mini goals for the week, right? And we have 3 categories. And what I realized is that has helped me professionally because I go, oh, those little moments of like, wait, I'm done. I can go back to my personal little goals and this thing I set with my daughter. And I was like, okay, I promised myself I was going to read, or I promised myself I'm going to dip into my crochet. Yes, guys, I do that. I crochet. And I'll just do like a row, right?
Yep.
Little mini, and we said little micro mini actions.
Yep.
It doesn't have to be big. And because, my daughter had come down and she goes, oh, I feel like a loser. Like I don't, and so we set that, and it's just been good. And we go back and we look at what we've accomplished, and she really enjoys like the marking off and knowing that we're there. And so she says how I'm referencing this is she says she thrives in her downtime now. Like she says, I've earned my downtime. And I was like, oh, I want to be her. Like, you know what I mean? I want to get to that attitude.
Yes.
But she's like, I've hit my goals. I'm happy. So if we all do that. But anyway, thank you, Andrea. Like that's the biggest thing is I'm like, yes, okay, it's all connecting. Everything you're talking about, that part connected to clarity. That's what that's the biggest word for me today. Having you on is clarity.
Yes. And one last thought that I just thought of when you were saying that, and it's not necessarily related, but clarity, sometimes you can't find it unless there's some quiet, and something as simple as turning off like notifications on your phone, email reminders, whatever. Like that's the noise in your life that's distracting and keeping you from getting down to what is really most important a lot of times. And sometimes simply by turning that off for 30 minutes, an hour, put your phone on DND, that might be all it takes to really help you dig in and find the clarity if you're really struggling to think about what's important to you.
I love that advice. I'm a big fan of that, by the way. I do that frequently, but I think it is important because you have just remember, if you struggle with that, remember it doesn't have to be all day. It can be 30 minutes.
Yes.
Right. And do it in smaller increments if you're nervous about that, but 30 minutes is okay. And then you can turn all your notifications back on. And I usually forget. And then by the end of the day, I've got like 7,000 messages and I'm like, I missed it all.
That's a different kind of noise. That's a different kind of overwhelm and hustle. Then.
Right. Even yesterday, I don't know. Yesterday I had I'm not kidding you, 42 messages in my inbox because I'd forgotten to turn the notification thing back on. And so last night at 8 p.m., I'm texting everyone back. I'm like, sorry.
Look, I know if I really need to get Anna, I just text her kids. And if they don't, they don't respond, then I text her husband. You know what I mean? I'm like, can somebody just tap Anna? She doesn't ignore me this long, so could you just let her know I send her a message? You know what I mean?
So many things to work on.
So many things. But okay, let's move into this worksheet that you talked about lately. Let's grab our screen here. Yes. Okay, so Andrea, tell everybody what this is, why they need it.
Yes, absolutely. So I made this just for a way to let somebody kind of guide themselves through a coaching session, right? Not everybody is at a point where they can take advantage of coaching, right? Because I got to pay my bills. So I don't work for free. But this is a free option that people have if they want to give it a try on their own. They can download it and work their way through kind of setting some goals and some priorities. And it really just, again, the primary piece of this is you have to slow down and you have to think. If you simply do that, and even if the worksheet doesn't get all the way done, hopefully it will trigger some different things for you that are impactful and helpful.
I love
and
this.
I challenge you to complete it and take a picture and blur out the most important thing and post it as kind of like this manifestation for yourself and tag Andrea and say, hey, your worksheet
For sure.
is like working. I think I'm going to add that to one of my goals this week is I'm going to fill this in. Anna, we're going to do it in good notes
We're gonna
together.
do it.
Okay.
Yeah, we're
And
gonna do it.
Yeah. And we're going to tag because I think, again, back to the word clarity, right? This worksheet, I feel, will kind of get us to that clarity portion that we all need. It's definitely a nice hit the brakes for a sec kind of thing. So thank you. We will be sure to have the link to her worksheet in our podcast description, our YouTube description, and on our blog show notes. So no worries. We will make sure you have every way to find her.
Absolutely.
So, okay. And then where can we continue the conversation with you? Like, how do you want to keep this momentum going?
Absolutely. So most days you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm usually there commenting, messaging, posting. So that's where, if you want kind of like a little, almost a daily dose of leadership, change, growth, thoughts, that would be a good spot to follow me or connect with me. I do have Facebook and I do have Instagram too. I didn't get that listed up there. Sorry, guys. It's just at Andrea Singsaas. And then I do have a website that is there, and it will always get better. So we're working on it.
Yay! Awesome.
That's not the priority as my.
No, hey, no, that's, you know what I mean? I think it's clarity of what's important and what's on the list, right? So,
Yeah.
Okay, this is my part where I hand it over to Anna because I am a talker. But thanks, Andrea. I'm putting on some Oscar music here.
Andrea, thank you so much for being our guest today on the 15-ish minute coffee chat. As always, for all of you out there listening, you can find us at annandselena.com. We also love to hang out on LinkedIn, so come and connect with us there. You'll also see us on Facebook and Instagram, and as always, on your favorite podcast platform. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow. Give us a little number boost. That's what we need. So that's what we're asking for you from today. Andrea, thank you, and we cannot wait to see everybody on the next 15-ish minute coffee chat.
Thank you.
Aloha.